Assalamualaikum. I bid to my panels, Dr. Rosliza binti Abdulaziz and Dr. Masno Bani binti Abu Sama. Today, I'm going to present my research on the level of ICT integration in English classroom among the trainee teachers in IPG campus Datuk Razali Ismail. First of all, I'm going to explain the background of my study. Okay, now we are living in the 21st century where ICT or technology has become an integrated part of our life. Practically, every job in our daily life use some form of technology such as mobile phone, laptop, iPad, and even now I'm using technological devices to present my research. So just as technology has changed the aspects of our life, it has also affected our education system. Therefore, the element of ICT has been included as one of the transformational shifts in Malaysian education blueprint as the national education future development focus. Our former education minister, that Dr. Mazli Malik, has stated that teaching and learning information in all schools must be in line with the development in information, communications, and technology, which is ICT. So, teachers must utilize all the available vehicles such as internet access and computer in teaching and learning. The Ministry of Education also has come up with a lot of initiatives and programs such as Smart Schools, One Best Study Net, My School Net Project, and EduWeb. And the goals aimed by the Ministry of Education are to raise the standard and equality of education by encouraging the use of ICT in teaching and learning, and also to equip the students holistically to get them ready for the challenging future of Industry 4.0. Okay. However, these goals can only be achieved if the teachers are digitally illiterate and know how to integrate ICT in teaching and learning. Therefore, this study aimed to investigate whether the trainee teachers are competent in integrating ICT and do they utilize the ICT facilities provided by those initiatives taken by the Malaysian government in teaching and learning of English. Okay, statement of problems. I found that there is a lack of data on the level of ICT integration in Malaysian primary schools. Most of the previous studies done by many researchers only focus on the perception of the teachers in applying technology in the classroom and also the effectiveness of ICT integration in teaching and learning. So my research is not only cover the perception on the use of ICT, but it is mainly focusing on the usage level of ICT in teaching and learning of English. And although there were also research on the level of ICT integration in the Malaysian schools, but however, most of them focus more on the secondary school or both primary and secondary school together. And the selection of samples were mostly from West Coast and South Malaysia such as Kuala Lumpur, Perak and Johor. So my research has tried to identify the usage level of ICT among the trainee teachers who are teaching in the primary schools located in the east coast of Malaysia, specifically in the district of Kuala Nerus, Terengganu. Purposes of study. Okay, for the purposes of study. Okay, according to Jones and Priest 2006, teachers need to be confident and competent in using various ICT tools to build their trust in technology, meaning that in order to have a successful integration of ICT in teaching and learning, teachers must be confident and competent in using ICT. So the purposes of my study are to investigate the level of ICT skills and integration among the trainee teachers, and also to study the barriers and teachers' perceptions on the use of ICT in teaching and learning. There are 5 research objectives for my research. Okay, first one is to identify the trainee teachers' level of ICT skills. Second is to identify the integration level of ICT in English lesson. Next is to identify the main barriers faced by the trainee teachers in using ICT. Fourth, to identify the trainee teachers' perceptions on the use of ICT in teaching and learning. And the last one is to find the relationships between the dependent variable, which is the ICT integration, and the other three independent variables, which are ICT skills, barriers in using ICT, and perceptions toward the use of ICT. Okay, the research questions are similar to the research objective, but they are written in the form of question. Okay, moving on to the significance of research. Okay, this study has identified the level of ICT integration among the training teachers. So the result may enable the educational authorities to formulate a framework to enhance the ICT usage in Malaysia education. It also enabled the educational authorities, it also enabled the Department of Languages and Department of Information Technology in IPG campus Datuk Razali Ismail to plan initiatives to encourage the use of ICT among the trainee teachers. Okay, and this study has also identified the barriers of using ICT in teaching and learning. So the result may enable the educational authorities to know the lacking aspects of ICT integration and find ways to solve those problems. Okay, lastly, this study may raise the awareness among the trainee teachers towards the benefits of using ICT, and it could motivate them to utilize it in teaching and learning. Okay, based on the previous studies by past researchers, it was found that ICT integration among the Malaysian teachers is still at the low level. Okay, for example, a study done by Ibrahimi and GR 2018 found that only 57% of teachers in Malaysian public high schools use ICT for education. And then another study by Kamaruzaman Cik Anwar, Muhammad Noor, and Muhammad Nasrun 2017 also found that the teachers' level of ICT integration is still at the low level, although most of them are knowledgeable in using ICT. For the research design, I used a survey research design to carry out this study. So the main method used for this study is the quantitative method, which is via questionnaire. And then I also use qualitative methods, which are interview and observation checklists to support the data collected via quantitative method. The population and sample. The population of my study consists of 68 trainee teachers, which are the TESOL students of June 2016 and 2017 intake from IPG campus Datuk Razali Ismail. And for the sample, I have selected 50 trainee teachers who represent 70% of the total population, and they were all chosen randomly using the simple random sampling method. Okay, I have 3 instruments for data collection in the study. Okay, which they are questionnaire, structured interview, and observation checklist. Okay, for questionnaire, there are 5 sections. A question consists of 5 sections. The first one is demographic information of the respondent. Second section is to know the level of ICT skills among the trainee teachers. Third section is to identify the level of ICT usage. And fourth section is about the barriers faced by the teachers in using ICT. And the last section is about the teachers' perceptions of ICT integration in teaching and learning. Okay, the second instrument is interview. I have constructed 7 questions based on the research objective, and the last instrument is observation checklist. Okay, the checklist has been divided into 4 components. The first component is teacher skill and knowledge in ICT and subject matter. Second component is classroom ambience and management. The third component is type of ICT tools used in the lesson, and the last component is language used with ICT. Okay, for the research procedures, okay, before I conduct the study, I have identified an issue in education, and then I wrote a research proposal and presented it to my supervisor for approval. And then I analyzed the background of my study and developed the research objective and questions. After that, I chose the target population and sample for my study. And then I developed the draft of instruments to be evaluated by the panels, by the expert panels. Okay, and then after I have gotten the approval to conduct the research, I carried out a pilot study. Okay, and then when the validity and reliability of the instruments have been established, I developed the real instruments and collected the data from the real sample. Okay, and then I analyzed the data and made a report based on the findings. And the last step is presenting the report, which is what I'm doing right now. Okay, for data collection procedures, okay, first I distributed the online survey questionnaires to my sample via WhatsApp application, and then I conducted structured interviews with 4 trainee teachers to collect additional data for this study, and then I conducted classroom observation to explore the integration of ICT in English classroom. Okay, for data analysis procedures, okay, for the quantitative data, which is questionnaire, I use SPSS to analyze the data. Okay, first I conducted descriptive analysis to find the percentages, mean, and standard deviation. And then I conducted correlation analysis to find if there are any significant relationship between the dependent variable and independent variables. And lastly, I conducted regression analysis to measure the degree of correlation between the dependent variable and independent variables. And then I wrote a report based on the findings. Okay, for interview data, I transcribed the audio recording, and then I did a textual analysis by analyzing the content and sorting out the findings into several teams based on the variables. And then I wrote a report. Okay, for observation data, for the observation checklist, I interpret the data from the checklist and wrote a report based on the checklist. Okay, moving on to the conceptual framework. Okay, there are 4 theories that can be related to this research. Okay, and the main ideas or key points under these 4 theories can be mapped onto the 3 independent variables of the study. Okay, the first theory is diffusion of innovation by E.M. Rogers. Okay, basically this theory is about how do people adapt technology in their lives. Okay, one of the key points under this theory is individual characteristic, which is whether the individuals have the knowledge and skills in technology or not. Okay. The second theory is Technological Pedagogical Content Knowledge Framework, or known as TPAC, by Mishra and Kohler. Okay, this is one of the famous framework which illustrate the knowledge that teachers need to acquire in order to integrate technology successfully in teaching and learning. And the third theory is Theory of Planned Behavior by Eichmann. Okay, according to this theory, behavioral intention is predicted by the attitude toward the behavior and perceived behavioral control. Okay, the behavioral intention in this study is the ICT integration, and the attitude towards the behavior is the teacher's perception, and the perceived behavioral control is the perceived ease or difficulty of integrating ICT. And the last theory is technology acceptance model by Davis. Okay, this theory explains the motivation of users by three factors, which are perceived ease of use, perceived of usefulness, and attitudes towards use. Okay, or in other words, okay, this theory believes that people tend to integrate ICT when they acknowledge the advantages of ICT and think that ICT is easy to use. Okay, this is the findings of quantitative data from the questionnaire. Okay, so the mean for the first variable is 4.0533, which indicates that the level of ICT skills and knowledge among trainee teachers is high. Okay, the mean for second variable, which is the dependent variable, is 3.249, indicates that the level of ICT integration among the trainee teachers is moderate. And the mean for third variable is 3.67, and the overall mean for last variable is 3.832, okay, which indicates that the perceptions of trainee teachers toward the use of ICT is high, meaning that the trainee teachers do have a positive perceptions toward the use of ICT. Okay, table 2 shows the correlation analysis between the variables. So it was found that there is a significant relationship between the current level of ICT integration and the level of ICT skills and knowledge, and there is also a significant correlation between the current level of ICT integration and perception of using ICT, as both variables, independent variables, have significant values less than 0.05. Okay, the findings of this study can be summarized under 4 aspects, which are level of ICT skills, level of ICT integration, barriers of ICT integration, and perception of trainee teachers towards the use of ICT in teaching and learning. Okay, based on the survey results, I found that the level of ICT skills and knowledge possessed by the trainee teachers in using ICT is high. However, most of them are only expert in basic ICT skills, such as searching and downloading online materials from the internet, uploading online learning materials on online learning platform. Okay, and based on interview result, the teachers rated their ICT skills and knowledge as moderate, as they know how to integrate ICT in their lesson, but only on certain levels, meaning that they can only utilize the existing ICT tools, but not to the level of creating their own application. Okay, next, I found that the level of ICT integration in English classroom is moderate, because most of the training teachers only integrate ICT for about 2 or 3 times per week, and also in certain language school classes. Okay, and the majority of training teachers only use basic ICT devices such as speakers, LCD, laptop. They rarely use online learning platforms such as Google Classroom, Frog VLE, maybe because they are unfamiliar with the online learning platform. Okay, so I also found that the main barriers of ICT integration that are commonly faced by the trainee teachers are insufficient number of ICT devices, poor internet connection, and limited time to utilize the ICT. And lastly, I found that the trainee teachers' perceptions on the use of ICT are positive. As most of the trainee teachers agree that ICT allows students to be more creative and imaginative, and it helps to broaden the students' knowledge paradigm. Okay, so in conclusion, um, based on the results of the study, I can conclude that the level of ICT integration among trainee teachers is still moderate, although most of them claim to be highly competent in ICT skills. Okay, and then I found that most of the schools in the area of Kuala Nerus are lacking ICT facilities such as notebooks, LCD projectors, and computers. Although they do have these facilities, but most of them are not in good condition. For example, most of the notebooks in the schools are broken and cannot be used. Okay, my last conclusion, the training teachers level of ICT skills and their perceptions on the use of ICT have affected their level of ICT integration in teaching and learning of English. Meaning that the training teachers integrate ICT in their lesson because they are competent in using the ICT, and they believe that ICT have a positive effect on the students' learning. Okay, for future studies, I suggest that they should be done in terms of teachers' perceptions toward the usage of ICT depending on the different language skills. It is because from the result of this study, I found that most of the training teachers only utilize ICT in certain language classes such as listening, speaking, and language art. Okay, and then next, further studies could include students to be the sample so that we can know their perceptions on ICT integration and the impact of ICT towards their learning process. Future research could also explore the participation level of teachers and students in the innovation project, which involves ICT integration. Okay, this study can encourage the use of ICT in education among the teachers and students. Okay, and then lastly, I recommend that further studies should be carried out in other locations such as the remote areas to collect the data on internet accessibility, availability of ICT resources, and level of ICT skills and research among the teachers and students. So the result from this study may enable the educational authorities to aware and realize the situation that happen in that type of location so that they can plan initiatives according to the school's conditions and needs. Okay, for the implications of this study, okay, this study has found that the level of ICT integration among the trainee teachers is still at the moderate level. So, Ministry of Education has to formulate a framework to enhance the ICT usage in Malaysia education. And the educational institution of IPG campus Datuk Razali Ismail also has to plan various strategies and initiatives to encourage the use of ICT among the training teachers in Ipgkdri. Okay, this study also has has identified that most of the trainee teachers are not really expert in advanced ICT skills. So the institution has to help them to boost their competencies in those skills, such as producing their own learning materials using ICT. And lastly, this study has identified the main obstacles to the use of ICT, which are the insufficient number of ICT devices and poor internet connection. So, Ministry of Education has to provide support by supplying ICT devices and providing better internet connection to the schools in Malaysia. So, I think that's all from my presentation. Thank you, and Assalamualaikum, and Salam Ramadan.